real quick. I saw it was like a clip of because Weird Al's doing like a press tour right now. I don't know exactly
for his tour.
It's because the tour's going on because he was on Stern last week and he performed a couple of songs, and I guess he was also on.
It was on Office Hours not too long.
And he was on Jason Alexander's podcast, and he told I know
he has a podcast.
That's right. And he told a story, and I only knew half of this story, and I did not know the really funny second half of the story, which is I knew that Weird Al wanted to parody "Live and Let Die" as Chicken Pot Pie, and I knew that Paul McCartney rejected it. So Paul McCartney rejected it because he's a vegetarian and didn't want it to seem like he was encouraging people to eat a meat product like chicken pot pie. And then people asked Weird Al, like Jason Alexander's co-host asked, he was like, "Well, did you think about changing the chicken pot pie to something else that Paul McCartney would approve of, like a vegetarian dish or something?" And Weird Al said, "Well, a couple of things. One, I didn't really want to compromise. Chicken pot pie sounds like Live and Let Die. If you switch it to like broccoli pot pie, it's not as good. More importantly," and I did not know this part of the story, more importantly, Weird Al wanted the breakdown of Live and Let Die when it does the da-da-da, da-da, it was going to be chicken box, and that's phenomenal. That is fantastic. The chicken, he was going to do chicken noises for the bark, 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 bark. Anyways.
It's the Auburn Observer Podcast. We're back. Justin Ferguson, joined by my co-pilot per usual, Dan Peck. Hello, Daniel.
Ahoy, Justin. Great to see you as always.
Stuck the landing there.
We are in the Wings 94.3 studio. Wings 94.3, your home for the Auburn Sports Network. Football, men's basketball, Tiger Talk, postseason baseball. You can catch all that on Wings 94.3 in the Auburn Opelika area. Should be some exciting action.
By the time you're listening to this, it's probably a rain delay at the SEC tournament in Hoover.
Entirely possible. So
it's amazing how that always happens. I know it's a trope at this point, but let's just
it's hard enough to keep that tournament on schedule when the weather cooperates.
Sure, it's baseball.
But yeah, you mix in the possibility of inclement weather, and you got trouble. Wings 94.3 also your home for classic hits in the Auburn Opelika area. Got some AC/DC going right now, some Van Halen, some Def Leppard coming up, all that and more on Wings 94.3. We really appreciate that they let us use the studio.
Yeah. By the way, before we get going, speaking of Auburn baseball,
John Mellencamp coming up, the subject of a recent Final Jeopardy.
Yeah, there you go. I knew that one, kind of. Speaking of Auburn baseball, our pal Henry Patton going to be on top of that. He's got some fun stuff in the works. He's been doing those live updates, which will probably be really good to have for SEC tournament purposes because of how crazy times are and schedules and all that. So got that going on at the Observer with subscription. Also,
should be in position, I think, if Auburn keeps winning, should be in position to have coverage of regionals and super regionals potentially right here
at Plainsman Park.
Yeah, at Plainsman Park.
Very, very cool.
Before you get to the
looking forward to that. And so shout out to Henry for taking the ball and running with it here this baseball season for the coverage at Auburn Observer, giving us baseball coverage for the first time. Also want to shout
knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, there you go. Also want to shout out our pal Justin Lee at the Auburn Torch. Busy weekend for him.
Yes.
Auburn women's tennis going all the way to the national championship match, losing a tough one to A&M at the end, but
what a season.
Incredible season, incredible run. I hope more people watch college tennis, like Auburn tennis, moving forward, because it's a very fun product. If you're a local, go watch them. Go watch matches. Like go up to Yarborough. It's a blast. They're free to go to. It's pretty fun once you kind of pick up the scoring and the system of that. A lot of fun. It's a fun team.
Always something to look at, right?
Yeah,
like that's the other thing. It's nonstop.
Such a blast, and he's got
and then it can get high stakes at the end. I think Sunday night was really that whole weekend.
Oh yeah,
was a demonstration.
Incredible.
That's college tennis at its best.
Yes,
but as Justin said, I want to echo that like in person college tennis is really fun, really exciting, and
I had never been to.
It's tough. It's tougher to follow from a distance because of the some of the broadcasting isn't necessarily.
But when you're right there,
it's
a lot of
fantastic
fun.
in person.
And I had never been to a match until this year, and I loved it. I really enjoyed going to them.
Hey, by the way, news that is rumors that Arkansas may back off.
Yes, they're going to come back, which will be big.
Which is great.
Lee had a really good column about that last week at the Torch. So auburntorch.com got coverage of all the Olympic sports for Auburn. There's still some more going on. Track hosting SECs this weekend, so got a lot of that going on at the Auburn Torch. So subscribe there. You can subscribe to the Observer as well. If you're listening to this for free, auburnobserver.com, $6 a month or $60 a year gets you access to everything we got going on. So let's dive right in. We have got some news to talk about. Got some, this time of year you don't always get things, events, moments to talk about. We do this time around. We're going to talk recruiting, pickups for both the basketball and the football side here at the Observer. That's going to be our podcast today. We're going to start on the basketball side, also talk some more kind of big picture stuff going off of last week's interview with the sit-down one-on-one interview with Stephen Pearl. Talked to Stephen again on Monday at Wicker Point before the Pearl Family Foundation charity golf event. Bruce Pearl told us this, by the way. That event, and the Pearls Foundation has now raised over $1.5 million for Children's Harbor over the years. So it's a really, really cool stuff. Got to talk to Bruce, got to talk to Steven, and we will talk about the big news that happened since we last recorded the podcast. We recorded the mailbag episode on Thursday, and then literally a few hours after that went up, Auburn picking up a commitment from their last piece of the puzzle for the roster. Not a guy that should surprise anybody. If you've been following along with us for the last month and a half or so, you knew this guy was very much one of Auburn's top targets, if not the top target, for their final spot on the wing. And Auburn getting a commitment on Friday morning, a public commitment, first reported by Draft Express, and then later confirmed here locally. You've got the pickup of Mantas, and I'm gonna try to hit this last name. Good, I've been practicing. Rubštavičius. I'm hearing Rube.
Okay, Rubštavičius.
Rubštavičius.
Okay.
And that first S makes like a sh sound, so it's like a Rubštavičius.
Rubštavičius.
Yep.
Okay.
So Mantas, and it's Mantas, not like Mantis, not like the praying mantis.
I kind of want to just call him Mantas, like a pop star, or something. I feel like it's
Brazilian soccer player.
I think he's got the kind.
I've been calling him Ruby.
Oh, I like that
for
too.
short. I wonder what the team is going to call him, because Mantas is not that hard, to say, but yeah. So Ruby, as we will call him here, or Mantas, committing to Auburn. First reported by Draft Express, like I said. He has not officially signed with Auburn yet. I have been told that is going to happen in the near future. It is a process of working out all the details. He is a player that is coming from overseas. He is a player that has played a lot of basketball all over the world. So there's things like eligibility and clocks and all that to shake out. Also, and this just talking about the new day and age of college basketball, you're talking about contracts. You're talking about buyouts from other clubs. You're talking about things that have to go on there. But he's expected to be the very last piece, and it'll be officially finalized in the near future for Auburn. And
how much more playing time could they really be offering? You think about they've got a full boat.
Yes,
right.
This is the last piece.
Right. It's like the only thing you could conceivably think of, like if they found a developmental piece or something that was, like maybe, but it's hard to imagine they're not finished with the roster when you think about like the.
Stephen Pearl said when asked, so he couldn't talk about Mantas officially. He can't talk about it because he's not officially signed and announced yet, right? So you don't have any details from him yet about that. But when he was asked about the roster on Monday.
And some of that's that, like as you said, things can get a little bit, they're a little bit more prickly when you're talking about a European pro.
Correct. Yep. He said when asked about the roster construction, he said, quote, "We're in a good spot. We're full at this point." This is, they feel like that.
Yeah.
Now, again, they have not officially announced that, Mantas is in, but they said they're full, so that ought to tell you something where it's going to be there. But yes, Mantas Ruby, a really big time pickup for Auburn. In so many ways. Not the least of which is the fact that this is a wing who has played a ton of college basketball. So last week when I talked to Stephen Pearl for that one-on-one interview, you can read the two-part interview if you haven't yet at the Observer. If you're a subscriber, it's a good time to subscribe if you're not already.
Auburn Observer versus the World.
Yes. When you
print the T-shirts.
When I talked to Stephen Pearl about this, he said this upcoming team compared to last season, they felt like, hey, we're bigger, we're older, we're deeper, we have more shooting. And that was before they had gotten a public commitment from Mantas. Mantas checks all those boxes.
Yep.
It makes them an older team. It makes them a deeper team by default. It makes him a taller team. He's got a good size. He's listed. Sometimes you'll see him listed at 6'6". Sometimes you'll see him listed at 6'7". His playing height is closer to 6'8" because his in shoes measurement is like 6'7.5".
When we were talking about Narcisse, and it's like there's the thought that there's going to be a learning curve. If you remember, even a year ago with Jovic, like there's going to be a learning curve when a younger player from Europe makes the jump to college basketball, has to deal with the speed of the game and all that stuff. Player like Mantas feels like it's different. It's a different situation. How much basketball he's played, the fact that he turned 24 earlier this month. It does seem like this is a guy that, often you're sort of waiting for European players to get the swing of things, and you don't want to go into a season with someone penciled in for an outsized role. Feels like with Mantas, they feel confident. They can expect starter level production from this guy from the moment he gets to campus.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is a guy that there's so much you can get into with him. We can go in so many different directions with the Mantas breakdown. And again, you can read our breakdown of him at the Observer. Got a bunch of film, got a bunch of stats there. It was a lot of fun working on this piece. My brother, who's done a lot of the heavy lifting on these breakdowns, really, really dug deep with this. But you got to keep in mind, again, new age of college basketball where this is possible. But how about this, Dan? Mantas made his professional debut, signed with his hometown club in January of 2019. So he's been playing professional basketball for 7 years, right? He went through 2 different NBA draft cycles.
That's when Bo Nix got to Auburn's campus.
Yes.
If you want some perspective on
right, exactly. He's 24. He's like he's
got an NBA draft prospect page.
He just turned 24 like a couple weeks ago.
He's got like a 2020 NBA draft prospect page, right?
He went through the draft process and didn't get selected. He played in the summer league with the Warriors. He went through another draft process and didn't get taken. And so that's how he's still eligible to come over and play. And he's going that route of coming and playing American college basketball.
Can't help but wonder, too, like a prospect going through pre-draft stuff in like the teeth of COVID.
Yeah.
Like 2020, like how much that may have.
And
like,
an international guy, too.
Yeah,
It's crazy. And with Mantas,
it's sort of lightning in a bottle, just the thought that he's, especially with the age limit, like the thought that he's even able to play any college basketball. The fact that he's still on the board and able to play college basketball.
And I learned recently that there's something to do with, and I don't know all the ins and outs of this, but there's something to do with the fact that he played on the national team in Lithuania. Has something to do with his college eligibility and like having that kind of freedom, I guess, to play here. Because yes, he is a guy that normally probably would have aged out by now, but ultra experience. He's played all over the world, right? He played in Australia for a stretch in the NBL.
Can I share? Because I think we talked about this off the air on the drive. Can I share the anecdote that I'd been told by somebody about that national team stuff? Which is, and again, I don't know the specifics of it either, but I remember hearing this from a coach who was. This is a couple years ago with women's basketball, but it was the thought that sometimes countries that mandate military service can allow athletes who have made the national team to count that time towards their military service and maybe even exempt them from military service because of that. And I think it
might be something similar here.
If you are a European player that was if your basketball was counted as your military service, I could see how the NCAA would, and I know this is different than the age limit rule that they're thinking about implementing right now, but I could see how the NCAA would take a different view of that than maybe some other reasons that you are delayed, that your college basketball was delayed.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if this is necessarily pertinent to
it could be something
Mantas,
like that. Yeah, it could be something like that. It wouldn't surprise me if it was something along those lines that made that. But so Mantas, he played in Australia. He's played in the not the G League, but he's played in the Summer League in the United States. He's played in Euro League, which is the second best basketball competition in the world. He's played in Euro Cup. He's played, which is kind of like, if you're a soccer fan, that's kind of like the Europa League compared to the Champions League of European basketball. He's played domestically for several years in Lithuania, which is a good domestic league over there. We were talking about it with Narcisse and Goy, how the French second division didn't have a ton of Americans that get imported. Lithuania different. Dan, you might get a kick out of this. His team.
Is he rocking the tie-dye jerseys?
No, okay. It's kind of yeah. There's a little bit of like Zubaz-ish kind of pattern, but you might like this. Two of his teammates for his Lithuanian club. One of them is Nigel Williams-Goss, if you remember him from Gonzaga, the Gonzaga point guard, and then Georgia Tech big man Moses Wright, former Georgia Tech guy, is over there as well. So like you've got some guys. He's been playing against some guys that have been. It's like that kind of level, right? You're seeing more of the type of competition, the type of athleticism that you get to see here in America more than a guy like what Ngoy did. Obviously, it's still going to be a transition, but this is a guy who has played against future NBA talents. He's played, that Australia, the NBL has really tried to import as much young talent as they can and try to be that next wave of, international competition to get guys into the NBA. So he's done a whole lot of that, and now he's going to come play for Auburn.
It would be a missed opportunity since we're in the Wings 94.3 studio. I mean, we got to mention, if you don't know about the Grateful Dead and 1992 and 1996 sponsoring Lithuania's Olympic men's basketball team, and I know Justin's usually the one talking about uniforms and different jersey sets and stuff like that. The Lithuania 92 and 96 Grateful Dead tie-dye jerseys and Olympic warm-up gear and stuff, that is an all-timer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, the story behind it's great, too. But, just the thought that, the Grateful Dead thought it would be a cool idea to sponsor some international basketball and help a team, help a team get to the Olympics. But no, just it's a cool story, and it has a lasting impact on basketball in Lithuania decades later. Do we have sort of an understanding with Mantas as to why now with college basketball, when it's something I think he's been sort of circling for the last couple of years?
To me, it's more of it's either now or never. He's not a guy that has been
quite literally.
Yeah, it's he's not a guy that has been like what he has done overseas. Now he's playing in EuroLeague. The team he's playing for now. So real quick, his parent club loaned him to another team in Lithuania for several years, and he played well, played a lot of minutes there. You see a lot of film and a lot of stats from there. On his current team, where he's got a lot of older guys on it, he's more of a reserve coming off the bench, playing that kind of thing. It's been tougher for him to be drafted into the NBA going in that route. And so it's like, okay, college basketball can be a way where he could still get an end to playing basketball over here. And if you're either going to do that or you still stick to playing overseas and playing in Lithuania. Jonathan Givney at Draft Express had him as the number one wing in this international market of guys who could come over to the United States this year, which I think is very, very significant. This guy is a really, really fun player to watch, and you can see where the fit is with him. He is a wing that is a knockdown shooter, right? Our pal, friend of the program, literal friend of the program, Pablo, has made the point where he says, watching him, he sees some Chad Baker-Mazara in him in terms of Here's a guy who's a gifted scorer, catch and shoot guy, but can go get his own bucket. He wants to primarily hit jumpers, but he can get downhill. He can be a good secondary playmaker. He's got length. He's got good size. You see some of those similarities in his game. He's a crazy good shooter. If you look, his team, so right now in his work in Lithuania for his club team, he's shooting 46% from deep, right? 38 of 83, shooting 83% from the line as well. In EuroLeague, he shot 44% from deep. He is extraordinarily gifted at one thing that I think is going to be the big separator for him at the college level, and it's shooting on the move. He comes off of curls and pin downs and cross screens, and it's catch and shoot and go. Now, not the same type of player, but Dan, you know how J.J. Redick became like all world at that? It's that he doesn't need to be straight up and straight down. It doesn't need to be a routine catch and shoot, something vanilla. He is a guy that gets the ball in his hands, gets squared up and fires, and can do it smoothly. And like he shoots the ball really well on the move. He's got a nice step back jumper he can go to. It's a guy that he doesn't need the ball in his hands to shoot. And on top of that, he doesn't need a ton of space to operate. He doesn't need perfect conditions to get his jumper off. He's a guy that does really, really well shooting on the move, and he's got that, that sense of space, just that the depth perception, just all that kind of stuff that goes into it. And at the college level, those guys are pretty rare. Like guys who can shoot on the move like that. It's just he's an elite movement shooter. It's going to be something that's going to jump out immediately with him.
I like the Chad comparison. I know that people have mentioned,
and he's left-handed.
And this is going back to he had an excellent. Was it the Euro? It was the Euro, the U20.
Yes.
A couple of. It was.
And by the way, he's been with the national team, like trying to qualify for the World Cup, the Olympics, like stuff like that in the past.
I'll get it right. So it's the 2022 U20 European Championship where he was.
He was incredible,
leading scorer for the tournament. Lithuania won the gold medal. He was all tournament team, and there are some highlights from that where he looks like Kirilenko. Like I mean, he's doing like he is doing it all, both defensively where it seems like he's got a step athletically on the rest of the tournament field, and then the stuff that he can do offensively in the half court.
Yeah.
And it feels like, I mean, that
there's so much savvy to his game.
Yeah, and that disruption that Chad Baker-Mazara brought, that edge.
Mm-hmm. I don't think he's like the side to side movement, the athleticism is quite the same as what Chad was.
Sure.
But he's long and he's played a lot of basketball.
Right. And his competitive juices may not
He's
boil.
got some swagger.
Sure, may not boil. Not boil quite as hot as Chad. But it's I think it's a really exciting addition to a roster. I mean, we were saying this before, even though we were pretty sure they weren't done adding to this roster. It still seemed like, I mean, if they had a game Saturday, you could find 40 minutes at the three if everyone was healthy.
Sure,
between.
But you wanted a guy that you feel like could be like, because again, with Adam Olson, it's a guy who was an elite catch and shoot guy, really good. I mean, he shot well on the move too. It's like great shooter, but a guy who's relatively new to college basketball, right? Older guy for sure. Don't really know how he fits in on defense quite just yet. You got guys like Simon Walker. You can move guys around. You can put Thomas Dowd there if you needed to, right? And figure out with your other minutes at the four. But this is a guy that's like, as long as everything stays according to plan, he's your starting three. And I think, talking to some people around Auburn about him over the last few weeks, where it's just like the thought is he's going to be one of your best players. He looks like he could be one of your best. Now, there are going to be immediate questions of, okay, it's kind of like what we said with Narcisse. You make the jump from Euro to America, there's a transition. And yes, there is. And we saw that with Filip Jovic. We've seen that over the years. Here's my thing with Mantas that's different about him. He's proven to be very adaptable. You got to think about it. Think about how many clubs, how many national teams, how many leagues, how many different levels of competition he's faced over the last few years. And he is consistently an elite shooter, a good scorer, And the other thing about him that's
I
really interesting.
I hate to stereotype generally with these guys too. It's like I don't think they're going to be fazed by SEC crowds, right?
No. No, yeah.
Guys that came over from Europe and have experienced.
Well, it's funny because like I posted the supercut of the film we had on Twitter, just as kind of like a teaser for the story. And there was a guy who responded to me and was like, "Let's see how he looks. Like he looks good. Let's see what he does with crowds." And I'm like, he's played in front of crowds, man. Yeah. Like it's been his thing.
And sometimes these gyms are kind of empty. Like I do get that,
especially when you're playing like youth team basketball.
Yeah. And he was also playing in 2020 and 2021 and 2022 when they were.
But I mean, his like the national the domestic league stuff he's playing with, the Euro League stuff. It's a high level of competition. Like Euro League, like that is as good as it gets outside of playing in the NBA. And you're talking about a guy that in Euro League has been a good reserve for his domestic team.
I haven't checked on it lately, but I know that, I mean, there was a time not all that long ago when, like pre-NIL, if you were a high school senior and you knew you didn't want to play college basketball and you wanted to spend a year playing basketball and then going to the NBA draft, the Australian League was one of
they have the Australian League has gone all in on we are going to be a place where dudes go get developed, and then you
like there was talk about there, and I want to say there have even been
a few of them,
Americans who chose to play professionally.
Emmanuel Mudiay is the first one that comes to my mind that I know who did that. There's others. I know others.
And I know that was like one of the concerns when NIL came around was like if because here's the thing, it wouldn't be that hard for a league like that to get some distribution in America. Suddenly it becomes,
and they play and you saw this with
or partner with the NBA.
Well, they do so the NBL will have teams come play over here, and even like Mantas has some experience playing against G League teams over here. It's different, right? Again. A lot of people are going to have a lot of different opinions on dudes this old, dudes who've been playing professionally this long. Should they be playing college basketball? Look, everyone's going to have their opinion on that. You know, your results may vary there. The one thing about him is interesting. He's like, yes, he has gone through the draft process. He has not been drafted. He has not played in the NBA. He's not played in the G League. So it is different than some of these other cases we've seen recently. Is he the kid from LSU or the kid that signed with LSU today? Or is it committed to LSU? He was like the numbers I saw from that today was absolutely wild. So if you haven't been paying attention, LSU had like no players, and Will Wade's having to like just go all international to get dudes in at this point because of the transfer portal.
They landed a prominent college player, didn't they? There was a Bashir.
Yeah. Abdi.
Yes,
Abdul's brother.
Yes, Abdi Bashir's going to LSU. But you're right. It's been a fairly barren roster since.
They picked up Yam Madar, who was the 47th pick in the 2020 NBA draft. Dan.
Okay.
He was drafted 6 years ago. And he's coming over to play for LSU. Because he never came over.
Sure.
He never did all that. He had his eligibility. But
and these are all. It's
a very different situation.
Doesn't this all get back to like the Baylor player from last year and sort of like knocking down rules about like, all right, well, being drafted alone doesn't make you a
nope.
No.
Right.
LSU also has he's a really interesting player. The tight end who says he's going to play basketball. Do you know about this? He's the son of a former LSU basketball player. Ahmad Hudson, who is he's the number one tight end in the nation and is also like Mr. Basketball level good in that sport in Louisiana as well. And so like there's a debate about whether or not to count him as a commitment for Will Wade at LSU, but it's a cool story, right? Of like a guy who says he's going to play both sports and apparently has the goods to do it. But it's just a question of whether or not he actually will.
So, again, floodgates are open, right? With a guy like Mantas. It's one of those things, though. It's like, you know, if other teams are doing it, if other schools have been able to bring guys like this in, you can see why a team like Auburn in the offseason tries to make that happen. It's a little different, obviously, than the Charles Bediako thing where you're pulling a guy in the middle of the season, right? But again, it's just this is some of the arms race in SEC basketball at this point. And people are going to have different opinions on it, about whether a guy like that should be playing college basketball or not. Well, the fact of the matter is he can. Guys like him are playing, and so Auburn's getting one of these guys as well. And he fits so well with what I think Auburn needed, right? You're getting a guy who's a really good catch-and-shoot player. You're getting a guy who can score on the move, a guy who can be a secondary playmaker, a guy who's got size and length, and we'll see how it translates over on the defensive end with him. You have a backcourt in Tahad Pettiford and Kevin Overton set, right? Who's going to be that connecting piece between that and this new look front court? Getting a guy like Mantas who has played a lot of basketball is a good look, Filip Jovic, good player for what Auburn had, right? He came over, he was young. Yes, he had been playing overseas basketball professionally, but he was a freshman, for lack of a better term. This is different. This is like getting a 5th or 6th year senior out of the transfer portal, except for this 5th and 6th year senior is a guy who's been playing overseas at some of the highest levels. And so for Auburn, it's
the Chad comp is a good one, right?
Yeah.
This is like getting, again, without I don't want to be dismissive of the level of basketball that Mantas has been playing right now. And when I say it's like getting a top junior college player, or it's like reaching into the D2 ranks and getting a top player that you think can contribute right now.
No, I think this is like getting a really experienced guy who hadn't been playing, high major basketball, but a guy who's played a lot of basketball at a very competitive level to what you're seeing.
It's interesting to think between Thomas Dowd and Mantas, like who was playing more like better teams in the last year or so, and like the level of competition.
And it's different, right? Because it's like I would say Mantas has been, but a guy like Thomas Dowd played more and played more minutes and is already used to playing some teams like SEC teams, like high major teams. So it's like it's different, right? But he's a guy.
But again, it's anybody can cook, right? Like it's like do not dismiss.
Well, it's one of the questions I asked, Stephen Pearl in that interview is like, how do you scout these guys and how do you do it? And it's like basketball's basketball, and you have to trust your eye test. It's like you have to see what this guy does on film and think, okay, does that fit what we want to do? Do you think those skills and what he's showing can relate over here? Yes, there is going to be a transition. Yes, you've got to get used to the power, the athleticism, the speed, especially of SEC basketball.
And sometimes you will bring
and rules.
And
how many times did Filip Jovic had to make sure he wasn't going to get like a goaltending call on him because it's FIBA rules are different.
FIBA rules are different. But and you look, sometimes you will bring in players, and I'm not saying this is going to happen with Mantas. Sometimes you bring in players who can't make those transitions. Yeah. Like who can't make those adjustments. Speed of the game is too difficult.
There's no guarantee.
No guarantee. But I would point this out. That's also true of reaching into the mid-major ranks or even the high major ranks and bringing in someone
right.
and thinking that their game's going to translate.
But I think one of the things is, like I said earlier, is like he's been adaptable. He's been a guy who's done a good job pretty much everywhere he's been, different types of teams, different types of leagues, situations, all that. The other thing is that he's not a guy, like you watch him, even at his best, even when he's going nuts for Lithuania and the youth teams and like those high-scoring games that he's had in the past, you don't see a guy that's like, if it ain't him, it's he can't make it work, right? He is a guy that can play off of others. He can go get his own, but he can play off of others. And it's like that scales. You have the experience. You have this is not a guy that's going to be like, well, I'm not averaging 20 points a game. I'm not taking all these shots. What the heck, right? There's an adjustment. You see that from guys sometimes, whether they're like smaller college transfers or high school guys, where it's just like, what does it look like now when you're not the star of the show? Yeah. And how does that work?
Can you handle not being the top option?
And can you still do good work without it? Right? Can you do it when there's somebody else who's being the ball dominant guy, when someone else is being the high usage guy? For a guy like Mantas, when you look at him domestically currently this season, he's playing with a bunch of older guys and having to be a role player and having to be a good teammate on top of that. And I think that works, especially when you hear part of that interview with Stephen Pearl last week. Probably the biggest thing he said, the most interesting thing I got out of that interview. Again, you can go and check that out. Is when he was talking about like the biggest lesson he learned from year one to what he wanted in year two was He wanted guys that he called solids and dudes who will go about things the right way and is like can fit in culture-wise with what they want. And a guy like Mantas, even if he has played overseas, on the floor, you can see how this fits in. You can see personality, chemistry, scheme-wise, how this makes a lot of sense. So big-time pickup for Auburn. And a guy that, again, if he can make it work on defense, he has the chance to be one of your best players.
I really like the shooting that Mantas seems to bring to a team where you're already excited about. Like just it again, last year there were disruptions to the plan.
Right.
But felt like often Auburn was maybe having to play with like 3 shooters on the floor, 3 genuine threats from the outside on the floor. And that can mess with your spacing.
And one of them might be in a slump.
And that can mess with your spacing. That can mess with your gravity. And like, it seemed to me like there were times when if you're a defense facing last year's Auburn team, there are players on the perimeter willing to shoot threes. And it's like, if you're a defense and that's how the possession's going to end, three-point attempt from that guy, it's like you'll take it.
Yeah.
Like, and especially if it's one of Auburn's better rebounders because they're out there on the outside and, you know, how effective are they going to be as an offensive rebounder if they're the one attempting the three-point shot? This offense seems to be able, depending on which combination they want to roll with, you're talking about at least 4 perimeter threats on the floor almost always, right? I mean, between what now you've got with Mantas and Olsen, what you feel like you've got coming back with Tahad and Kevin Overton, and then
I would also say with Simon Walker.
And with Simon Walker coming back, absolutely. Excellent point. And then Thomas Dowd, who got better as a three-point shooter over the course of the year. He's probably the guy that I, the way I was just describing a little bit of last year where, yeah, I mean, I suppose if Thomas Dowd wants to play a ton on the perimeter, defenses may force him to prove that he can hit those shots.
But he can.
But he can hit those shots.
And I would say Buki Aboye has got that potential.
And then you've got the possibility of Aboye and even Freeman.
Freeman a little bit too, yeah.
Having some perimeter game as well. So I mean, I think that it, like, on top of the the belief that you've got a team that's going to be a little bit tougher to attack from a defensive, like the fact that the team's defense may have improved, and that it's going to be on top of that, I really like the thought that it's just going to be maybe it's going to be a team that shoots more threes. But it also is a team where you feel like they're going to have more three-point threats on the floor at any given time.
And I think this is going to be a team that plays fast, and that should be a really good sign for a guy like Ty Bedford, who was at his best when he had the ball in his hands and playing fast in his career. It's been that case. So later this week at the Observer,
some of that being able to go fast. Some of that would also depend on like how good do you feel about
your depth.
There's
going to be a story about that later this week.
If Tahad or Kevin Can you sit him down for a couple minutes? Let him get a break.
There's going to be a story about that at the Observer later this week about how the depth, and you look at each position, and you feel like you're in a much better spot if these guys stay healthy. Right? Obviously, last season you have 2 dudes that you expect to be in your rotation who couldn't get to play pretty much all year, and you had other injuries affect you as well. Right?
Yeah, it felt like this time last year we're talking about a team that's going to play. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, but it's like feel like Walker and Bashir and maybe Magwood, like we're talking about those guys being rotation pieces.
I would say Oporum as well.
Sure, but even just
that was the plan, just because it was like who else was going to play center.
But even in the backcourt, right? And it's like think about how many minutes you pull out of the rotation when basically all 3 of those guys for different reasons are unavailable.
Well, and I think also as well. I think the other thing as well is that for Auburn, it's depth, but it's also experience depth.
Yeah.
Think about how many guys last year had never played D1 basketball. And Auburn's got a few of those guys this year that they're going to rely on, but it's not the majority of the team. And that's the big difference. That's the big difference from this year to last year.
Yeah, I wonder if, I mean, and again, not to say that he didn't rise to the occasion, but I don't think Steven, like if you'd asked him that first day, it's like, is Sway going to play 30 minutes a game every game this year for you? Like, is that going to be the kind of situation where like, or will you have other front court pieces and forwards?
And I think it's like one of those things is like, if he's playing 30 minutes a game, it's either one of 2 things. One, he's awesome.
Sure.
And look, there were times where he was really good. Or number 2, oh boy, you were in a tough spot with your front court depth, and you have to play those guys like that, right? And it's like for a thing with Sway, again, no harm, no foul here. Like I think Sway was a fantastic player at Auburn. He was a phenomenal interview. I think he's got a great high ceiling for the future. I want to see what he does in that Vanderbilt offense. I have no idea all the details of what happened for a guy to say he's coming back to Auburn and then end up leaving. I don't have all the details.
For Auburn to send the email.
Yeah,
right?
I don't have all the info and all the details. But, like, it's really, you don't get the sense of any hard feelings or any, like, sour grapes about it. From my perspective, it is, for a guy like Sway, he was not the offensive player that you needed if you were going to play him 30 minutes a game. There were several times, especially in SEC play, where it was just like, wasn't really getting guarded that much, out there. Now, NIT, he does really, really well. He's hitting those shots again. And again, I think the world of Sebastian Williams-Adams. I hope he's very, very successful because I think he's got a high ceiling. But again, it's like, you might not be asking your four to play 30-plus minutes. And if you're having to ask your four to play a lot of minutes, or you have a four playing a lot of minutes, you feel better about the offensive capabilities there.
I think Sway, and for that matter, I'll lump in Elijah Freeman. Like, I think these are two guys with bright futures in the SEC, guys that I won't be shocked they have really good seasons next year.
100%.
I think Auburn's in a pretty good space, like, having
they got older, they got deeper, they got, I think, better shooting.
And whether it was an Auburn initiated pivot or whether it was from the players, deciding, hey, I'm going to go explore some or somewhere in the middle of both.
Usually the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Exactly. And I think I think Auburn has, like, those guys found excellent landing spots. Mm-hmm. Those are probably two preseason top 15 teams, Vanderbilt and Texas. Depending on what happens with Tyler Tanner, who could, like, then you're talking.
You're talking a really good team.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? Maybe two preseason top 10 teams. Honestly, with the
I'll be interested in Vandy just because Tanner. There's so much hinges on Tanner.
Sure. If you brought Tanner back, because I do like some of the other
it gets to the point though. I know what you're saying, but it gets to the point where it was like not everybody can be a preseason top 10 team.
That's true. Yeah,
there's some teams returning a lot other places too.
And I do think I think I made the point before. Like, this does feel like, and we'll see where Auburn slots in here, but it does feel like more like 2 years ago in the SEC.
Oh, yeah.
Where you've got, because this past year you had Florida, and beyond Florida,
Arkansas.
You had Arkansas, but I wonder about, like, teams that you thought were second weekend and like genuine Final Four threats in the league. I think it was fair to say, like, beyond Florida, the league was light on on national championship contenders this past season, as opposed to 2 years ago when you had four top 10 teams basically all season,
right?
And they all went.
Yeah, you could have that potential in the SEC this year, and I think also, like 2 years ago, that middle tier could be really, really stacked. And, like, right now, am I thinking Auburn is a Final Four team? No. Do I think Auburn has second weekend potential? Yeah. I think there's plenty of teams in the SEC who are going to have that because it's an arms race.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there's a lot of teams that got that kind of experience back. And I think if you're like Auburn, bringing back Tahad Pettiford and Kevin Overton, like we said that all along, last season Auburn returned one player, right? The best teams in the SEC had multiple key players back. Well, now Auburn's got multiple key players back, and they got older and they got deeper and they got more shooting around that and got bigger. And which should help them be a better defensive team.
And there aren't that many teams in the SEC that are bringing back a ton of returning production. I mean, you can look at Florida.
No, I like Tennessee's roster a lot, but it's almost completely brand new.
Yeah, Florida's
it's just Florida in the field.
Yeah, Florida feels like a
and maybe Arkansas, depending on who all comes back there.
Sure, and I think that Alabama has, between Allen and Holloway, right? Like, you've got a pair of.
We'll see about that one.
It's like you've got a pair of guards, and you're waiting to find out if they were to. That's a pretty good backcourt for a college basketball team.
Yeah.
Bring that, but no, I think, and then of course we were just mentioned Tyler Tanner and Vanderbilt. Interesting, we're having this conversation without even mentioning Kentucky, but I guess that's the way it works now. Justin is.
I mean, I don't know who all's on that team right now.
So
I know Mark Pope's getting a lot of questions. He thinks that's cool. Good job, Mark.
I mean, if we were the Kentucky Observer, maybe
we'd be. Well, yeah, it would be. It would. This would sound like nuclear annihilation broadcast. It's tough, man. It's really tough, especially with
it would end with the Ted Turner.
Yes, it would end with the
Turner video.
It would end with "Near My God" to the by a military band. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so, I mean, more Auburn basketball stuff at the Observer later this week. I want to kind of dig into the depth, the pieces, because I really like this roster and the way it's been constructed, especially with this last piece with Mantas. Speaking of talent acquisition, Dan, the Auburn football team.
Yep.
On a little bit of a run right now.
Indeed. Hot streak.
Let's talk about this first and foremost, because again,
the power of Big Cat Weekend.
Okay, we'll get to that. We're not recruiting experts on here. We usually talk to people who are recruiting experts. Our pal Christian Clemente, for one. Our guy AU Nerd, who contributes some recruiting stuff for us, and hopefully we'll have some more of that here over the summer months at the Observer. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I have all the ins and outs in recruiting. That's not my bag. It never has been. But you got to keep an eye on it. You got to know it, especially or I would say even in a day and age where the portal gets bigger and bigger and bigger. One of the things that's really interesting, and it's something that I know Nerds talked about, but like with the running back they picked up not too long ago, it seems like this staff, it's going to be quality over quantity. And like, if you're going to be a high school player they're willing to bring in, you need to be somebody they feel like can play right away, or has a chance to contribute right away, or in a position to do that. Like, you're going to be worth the money, because with the portal the way it is, that money needs to go to guys that are a little bit more proven commodities, especially if you have to roll out a roster year in and year out where you could lose a lot of these guys.
I do wonder though if this coaching staff is willing to cast maybe a wider net as far as who they envision as, because it felt like the thought that we're not going to sign you unless you can contribute immediately. That's not a change of pace for Auburn. I think that was the MO of Hugh Freeze often too. Was the thought
I think my point there is just like, you're not necessarily going to be chasing like the biggest class or like the best rankings.
So I'm sort of thinking of it as a wider net, right? Like they'll go with a wider net.
Well, I think you got a wider geographical net because as of right now, Auburn's top 2 commitments are from Illinois and Delaware.
Sure, and there's also, I wonder if it's more about like, yes, they'd like for you to contribute in year one.
Yeah, and different positions are different positions, right? You want to always take a quarterback, even if you're probably not going to start a true freshman quarterback. You're always going to bring in offensive linemen, even though it's really hard to play as a true freshman in the SEC there.
But to me, one of the things that stands out about this roster, and I think it carries over into the recruiting philosophy for this coaching staff, is a willingness to look at a guy as a project, as, okay, maybe it's going to take a year. And this time next year, he'll be ready. A willingness to develop and season younger players. We've talked about, like, there are seemingly options to start in 2027 all over the offensive depth chart.
Yes.
That may not be guys that start this year, but guys that you think could be a couple of months away. And the thought that they're willing to add to that with more players that maybe can contribute right away, but maybe it'll take a little bit more time, but they're willing to put in the work especially at value positions. They're willing to develop a quarterback rather than just assume that you'll make everything okay in the portal. They're willing to develop offensive linemen, because I think we've seen, with all due respect to the last couple of seasons, I think we've seen the limits of believing that you can fix positions like offensive tackle in the transfer portal. I think you need to be developing those guys. You need to get the best players possible and develop them in-house. Yeah. And the kid from Delaware has a fantastic name, right? Like it's
we'll get that, but like I wanted to start with this again. We got a little sidetracked there with the quality over quantity talk, and I think that's important. The other thing too is I think Alex Golesh and his staff, when you import so much from USF, right? And these are guys who have not coached, with the exception of Cody Burns, these guys who don't know Auburn, they haven't been at Auburn and all that. When you look at this staff and you look at from Golesh on down, I think since day one, since he was introduced, you have seen an eagerness and an excitement to embrace the stuff that makes Auburn Auburn, and not I'm here and I'm going to do things all my way, or I have all the answers. I have all we're going to do things differently or whatever. I think there's an embrace of traditions, of ex-players, of a lot that you didn't always get with every coach here.
We know
not as much the last one, the 1-2 cycles ago.
Although even the last coach, I think we had people who said, "Why is everything branded to like snow and frost and ice
for a guy who didn't have a winning record?"
It's like it's especially when it's like, are you shoving, even in small ways, are you shoving Auburn traditions aside to emphasize.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that.
To emphasize the coach rather than and you're not seeing
it's Lee's infamous Joe Pizza tweet.
I was thinking about Lee a little bit when I made that point just now.
He was on it. He was on it early. Here's the thing. Like I think it's a really good point. Big Cat. You think about how many coaches have done a Big Cat, and Big Cat went away for a little bit, right? It came back, right? It's been a big thing. It was
shout out to Trooper and Looper.
It was so innovative.
Godfathers of Big Cat.
It was so innovative when it first happened.
Both still in the league, by the way. So, it's 2026, and two of the position coaches from that 2009 Auburn staff.
But how about this coaching staff from Golesh Night Out? Like, this is one of the things. It's like
Cody's on that team.
Auburn does Big Cat Weekend. This is what they do, and like to make it a big deal and just say, hey, you know what? I don't know. At USF or when he was at Tennessee or at Iowa State, or I don't know if they have weekends like this, in May, right? If they had recruiting events like this, but they do at Auburn. And so I think it's really, really cool that you see somebody like Golesh and his staff be willing to be like, oh, is this what y'all do? Has this been something that's been successful at Auburn in the past? All right, let's do it. Let's keep doing it. Let's do Big Cat. And it's an easy way to get people excited. And it's not a come here and 9 million people commit kind of thing. It's about building the class, It's always been about it's often not a whole lot about football. It's about like building camaraderie among the guys you're going out and trying to recruit, and just kind of that kind of connection that you build with those players and coaches and family members and all that. But yeah, I just when it kind of snuck up on me this year, but it's like, hey, Big Cat's coming up, and it's like, oh wow, they're going to do that. But it's not surprising that Golesh and them are doing that, because I think you've got to have some of that kind of savvy about you when you're a new coach with a lot to prove at a place like Auburn.
I was going to say Cody is the first person to appear at Big Cat, both as a player on the roster and
he was here before then as
a coach. Yeah, no, he was not a recruit at Big Cat, but I also want to say, like, I think Zach Etheridge may qualify as someone who has been both a player on a team that was hosting Big Cat and then later a coach hosting Big Cat. By the way, congratulations to Zach. He's headed to the Arizona Cardinals. Good luck. Awesome that he's getting the jump to the NFL. With this, like, you've heard from different coaching staffs, like, one of the cool things about Big Cat is the opportunity to advertise Auburn's campus and Auburn's climate, and it's
the stuff that makes Auburn.
It's a chance to put the university's best foot forward in a lot of ways. Maybe you don't have the vibrant, like, it's not bustling with people because graduation just happened, a lot of the students are gone, but aside from that, and that's maybe a benefit too, for traffic reasons and for like there's
traffic right now is a whole lot better.
Exactly, and maybe it makes sense that you'd want to.
If you're here right now, this is what it almost always used to feel like.
It would
not anymore.
It would make sense to have official visits right now when you can. It's like Big Ten schools wanting to do official visits when it's not snowing. It would make sense for Auburn to do some official visits when traffic's at its most agreeable in town. But then the thought of Big Cat's just an opportunity to put the university's, the program's best foot forward, and it seems like this coaching staff has really embraced that. I asked Brian on the drive earlier today about, because I again, like you, my finger's not necessarily on the pulse of recruiting. I don't talk to recruits hardly ever. It does seem like the reviews from recruits about the coaching staff, and specifically about Golesh, are what you would expect. Energy, purpose driven, the plan, the details. These things are seemingly resonating with a lot of the targets that Auburn's after on the recruiting trail.
And look, I don't think necessarily you should expect Alex Golesh to be the recruiter that Hugh Freeze was, right? And his staff bring in those level of classes, that caliber classes out of the high school ranks, right? I don't. We also saw that plan didn't necessarily equal more wins. So you got to do what you're comfortable with. But I will say this coaching staff has done some good work on the recruiting trail at this point. It is early. It's early. Hear me say that. It's early. But Auburn, right now, just inside the top 25 in the 2027 class, with 8 commitments. Dan, it's early, very, very early. But teams that are behind them in high school recruiting right now include Georgia, Alabama, LSU. Pretty good, huh?
How about this? I think this is a comparison you've made too, Justin. Hugh Freeze was an excellent recruiter, but that doesn't mean that when you take Hugh Freeze away and replace him, Auburn's going to stop being able to recruit.
Yeah.
Jimbo Fisher was an excellent recruiter. Florida State and Texas A&M, specifically Texas A&M, have shown the ability.
Mike Elko was not known as a recruiter, but Mike Elko still somehow finds ways to bring in elite talent. I wonder how that happened.
2 schools, and again, not to shortchange what Jimbo Fisher accomplished, but it's like 2 schools have found a way in the aftermath of Jimbo Fisher leaving to still recruit at a pretty high level.
Look, man, Kalen DeBoer's not Nick Saban. Alabama's still getting talent, right? I mean, that's just how it is. This class, though, for a class that's got 8 commitments, making some moves, making some movement. And so you have Big Cat Weekend. You get 2 commitments out of Big Cat Weekend, or at least in the immediate aftermath. Let's start with the first one that came up, Kareem Palmer, linebacker from Lyons, Georgia, Toombs County High School. This is one that I'm interested in kind of finding out more about in the next few weeks and months, as Auburn tries to lock him in and sign. I think the thing there with him is that you got to look, okay, 247 Composite has him as the number 505 player in the country, the number 39 linebacker. Is it something you do cartwheels for if you're just looking at numbers? Probably not. But here's a couple of things I want to keep an eye on here with Kareem Palmer. Kareem Palmer has official visits lined up with Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Mm-hmm. His offer list includes Alabama, Florida, Florida State, Michigan, Missouri, Tennessee, Texas A&M. Like, again, this is a guy that he's a 3-star, but he's not the garden variety 3-star. Like, he's got a really good offer list.
It's a really impressive list.
Very good list. The word on him is that he is extremely quick. Very, very athletic. Look, I'm not going to read the story, verbatim or anything like that because it's paid content, and I wouldn't want people doing that with my stuff, so I'm not going to tell you to do it with other people's stuff. But I was doing some digging, getting ready for this episode, and I looked, Jason Caldwell at Auburn Undercover, here's the headline for his breakdown, his commitment breakdown of Kareem Palmer. It says Auburn adds dynamic linebacker prospect. The subhead is Kareem Palmer is a physical freak at the linebacker position. And so, like, the word on him is just he's got great range. He's super fast, really good sideline to sideline, just explosiveness, really good pursuit, all that. Who does that sound like? Pretty much every linebacker Auburn signed in the last couple of years. Yeah,
I do wonder if the success of Xavier Atkins will have Auburn thinking like, well, that's the model, like that's the goal.
Well, Bryce Elijah Melendez, you get those guys like that. The other thing is like you're kind of getting to the point. We'll see. We'll see.
And DJ Durkin is still making some of these decisions.
Correct.
Right? I mean,
his primary recruiter is DJ Durkin, and I just think like. The last couple of years that we've seen with him at the linebacker spot specifically, it's like his talent evals have been pretty good. So when you're going out and getting somebody who's not necessarily a household name as a recruit, but you're getting you want to get a commitment from him in May, like that says something about him as a 3-star.
There's a great old Tom Green show sketch called Undercutter's Pizza, where his idea was he was going to follow a pizza guy around and then try to like beat him to the door and sell a cheaper pizza to the people, and more to aggravate the pizza guy as a prank than to actually sell pizza. If I were recruiting linebackers, I am tempted to just tailgate DJ Durkin.
Yeah.
just like
you wouldn't be bad off. Tell you that much.
Maybe just be the undercutter of trying to swoop in, and because he's been able to identify a couple of really impressive players in the last couple of years, and again that list of schools that Auburn beat out for this commitment is a significant one.
Yep.
And would tell you this is a big leaguer, an SEC caliber type of linebacker.
And then you have the other commitment they got on Monday, and that is from Leighton Von Brandt.
Yeah, shout out to the screenwriter who gave him the.
So if he commits to Auburn, can we go like we've had in the
LVB?
past? In the past, I've had a little bit of success with giving players nicknames and trying to get them at least to catch on our corner of the internet, right? Of Auburn social media, internet stuff.
You had to explain the bookstore.
I had to explain the bookstore to somebody recently. Anders Carlson, the bookstore. You know why? If you know. Junkyard Dog, JYD for Chris Moore.
He could have called him the mayor.
Yeah, he could have called him the mayor too. That would have been really good.
The next Anders.
The next Anders Auburn signs. Chris Moore, JYD, Junkyard Dog.
Sure.
I'm glad that got to catch on as much as it did.
The moment is the moment coming back. That caught him with us, Batman, and the moment that the Todd ones are
Gotham City's own Todd Bedford. Yeah, that one needs a little. We need to hammer that one a little bit more.
We'll think of something.
We need to. Now he's coming back.
That's right.
Like, this one's not anything creative, Dan. Like there's no clever tie-in or like this is more like a JYD. But I see the name Leighton Von Brandt, and if this kid comes to Auburn, his nickname is the Baron.
Yeah,
like he is the Baron, and maybe we can call him the Red Baron. Although he doesn't have red hair. If he had red hair, he would be the Red Baron for sure.
It's a very 80s bully name.
He kind of looks like I'm not. This is not picking on the kid at all. Like he kind of looks like one.
Yeah, and you know what? That's what I want. You know what? Hey, I don't mind my offensive tackle commitments. Looking like guys that would beat you up.
That would shove you in a locker. Yeah,
exactly.
Listed at
there are people that would tell you Auburn's needed more of that the last couple of years.
Oh yeah, listed at 6'6.5", 281 pounds. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce what his high school. It looks like Appoquinimink.
Okay.
High School in Middletown, Delaware. Yeah. Shout out Delaware. Shout out to Angelo Blackson.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only other Delaware Auburn player I can think of off the top of my head. I need to check and see if there's more there.
Some of those Philadelphia, Delaware, and parts of Maryland too. Some of those names are just unpronounceable. Yeah.
But here's
like the county names and stuff. Yeah.
Here's the thing here, Dan. Leighton Von Brandt, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, the number 5 offensive tackle in the country, the number 64 overall player. Here's where things get really interesting. To me, at least, Auburn picked up a commitment from him before official visits. Do you know who his top competitor, Auburn's top competitor was? Do you know who he chose Auburn over?
I believe it's Penn State, right?
Nope.
Oh, who was?
Notre Dame.
Okay, yeah. He was. I know he was. Penn State was in on him pretty heavily, too.
Yeah, he's going to visit Penn State here soon. Florida as well coming up. But here's the thing. If you know anything about college football, especially the last decade, if you are getting offensive linemen over Notre Dame, that is big news because they usually get whoever they want on the offensive line.
For a long time, Brian Kelly was of the opinion you just sign tackles and you convert them. There were years,
and then what did Notre Dame have on the offensive line? And they've still done it under Marcus Freeman, year in and year out. They just produce NFL caliber offensive linemen, and it's like you get to the season, and it's like, well, what does Notre Dame have the offensive line? Well, they've got 3 dudes who've been here for 5 years. And they're all 6'8".
heard Brian Kelly talk about that in an interview once, where he was like, guys who are tackles at the high school level, highly rated tackles, generally can move over.
Yeah,
guards and centers have to be just spectacular, or like it has to work out,
especially
at that one position.
Yeah.
And so Notre Dame had a lot of success, and I think LSU early on as well. Like he really emphasized the idea of sign tackles and. You can't have too many of them. You move them around. You know, if your offensive line is entirely guys who signed out of high school at a tackle, you still could be pretty good. And for Auburn to be beating out Notre Dame, and you know what? And for that matter, Penn State, like based on the last few years of college football too, like I would nominate Penn State as one of the better offensive line evaluators. I know it's a new regime there, but you know what? Matt Campbell's done pretty well evaluating offensive linemen as well. Like I don't think that ends with James Franklin leaving town at Penn State. So yeah, Auburn being able to go land a player like this feels significant.
Yeah, listed at 281, he's got room to grow, right? And when you see kind of his film and look at breakdowns of him, it's a lot of like, man, this dude's pretty athletic. He moves well for an offensive lineman. You love the aggressiveness and all that. And a lot of it is like, man, when he gets into college strength and conditioning program, you put more bulk on him, watch out. And here's the interesting thing. Auburn's other offensive line commitment right now in this class, this 27 class, is Jalen Moore from Creekside in Fairburn, Georgia. Shout out to one Marquell Harrell.
Yeah.
Who was from Creekside, Fairburn. I almost blanked on his name, and my wife would have killed me because Marquell was literally at our wedding. And,
one of our favorites.
Yeah, one of our favorites. And I was like, oh, offensive lineman, and like you like the gears were turning in my head. I was like, oh yeah, offensive lineman from Fairburn. Yep. And then it's like, yeah, it's literally one of my wife's closest friends.
Have we disclosed on the show that your wife has a T-Zac jersey because of the
yes.
I mean, I was gonna say it might be the jersey from when he caught the touchdown in the opener.
Yeah.
In 2009, because we've timed it
yeah,
out.
we have timed it out. We have timed it out. How about this? With Marquell? I'll say this: mine and Mary Kate's wedding. Dan was not the biggest person there.
Right.
Very rare do you get.
I was in my contract too. I was upset about it.
But anyway, yeah. So like, with the point I was making about
Elegante canceled at the last second. He would have been there too.
He won debunked. The thing, Jalen Moore listed at 6'4", 290. One of the things I think is really interesting is that you're getting these guys that have proven, I think, on the offensive line, can you move? Can you run? Are you going to be somebody who can play on the move on the offensive line? Because if you're going to play in this offense, you got to be able to run. You got to be able, like, you can't be, a statue. You can't just be big and bruising, but like you have to be able to move. And yes, we want to get you bigger and stronger as time goes on, but like I think with both the Baron here and Auburn's other offensive line commitments and other targets that they have on the offensive line right now, it's very much a spot of, okay, you got to prove right now you can play in this play our speed, and then when we do that, you kind of can grow through that. And I think when you see, it's fun to think. I need to look up what he was. I see 6'6.5", 281 pounds, and it's like not the biggest, like in terms of weight, offensive tackle in the world. Again, I'm not comparing him to this guy straight up, but like Braden Smith was like that coming out of high school, and it was just like, oh, this guy's an athletic freak.
I was sort of. I mean, first of all, it's a good sign, and we'll see. If the case with the Baron, if he can get on the field early. I mean, we've seen.
And look, you got to end up signing him all that. Exactly. I don't think Notre Dame's going to be like, fine, shoot, we lost him.
Cale Ellis got on the field as a true freshman last year.
Right.
Connor a couple of years ago, but like it's been pretty special to see an offensive tackle or an offensive lineman that young on the field. So again, down the line, if he can get on the field early, that's generally a really good sign. When was the last time Auburn signed a tackle? If they end up signing him, when was the last time Auburn signed a tackle of this caliber out of high school? Do you got to go back to
my first thought was Calvin Ashley.
Yeah, me too. Out of high school, yeah. I mean,
I'm looking at the list right now and trying to see where they're at.
Troxel was a decent recruit. I don't know if he was top 100 nationally.
Okay, if you go to all-time commitments, the most recent offensive tackle that Auburn has signed, offensive lineman that Auburn has signed, that was ranked higher than the Baron here was Calvin Ashley.
Okay.
And then before that, you got to go to Christian Westerman. And before that, you got to go, how about this one? Right ahead of him by a couple of spots on the all-time list, Dan, is Lee Ziemba.
Okay.
So, I know obviously Ashley and Westerman didn't work out at Auburn. Ziemba did. Ziemba really worked out at Auburn.
Yeah, Lee started every game for 4 years as an offensive tackle, and his last game was the national championship.
How about this? If you go a little below where the Baron is on the list, you find Braden Smith.
Yeah.
So again, it's that caliber of offensive line commitment that Auburn has got here, and it'll be a war to keep a hold of him for sure.
Zimba's 850 as well. Grew up there before moving to Arkansas.
But yeah, for Auburn right now, it's like they're in the mix for a lot of good players here over the next few months in what commitment season. Official visit season is about to start really getting going for Auburn, and they're lined up to get in.
I think it's the weekend after Memorial Day weekend.
Yep.
You can start hosting players on officials, and Auburn plans to have a pretty full dance card in the last weekend of May.
And they're recruiting experts from all over the place who are logging predictions for Auburn to get some heavy hitters.
Yeah.
And they already have. This is already, by the way, an Auburn class that has the number 4 running back in the country. According to, and this is going off the 247 composite, which is what I always use. The number 4 running back in the country, the number 5 offensive tackle, the number 12 defensive lineman, the number 13 tight end. That's half of your class right now.
Is it also fair to wonder that with some of the departures from the Auburn team in the last 6 months to a year, like maybe there's money to spend on recruits too? Like there's
for sure.
I mean, you can stay competitive.
And look, Auburn's not getting everybody they want, but like, you know, you've got to be able to be competitive if you're going to get these type of instant impact talents.
And maybe even like you have an edge compared to some other people who have already invested heavily in other parts of their roster or in the transfer portal this past offseason.
Yeah. So really good run here for Auburn football and recruiting. Obviously, the OV season is going to be really big for them. But, you know, again, and how about this? I didn't mention this earlier, and I meant to. How about, again, we'll see how it works out in the fall, and there's a long way to go, a lot to prove. But when Auburn made this staff transition, right, and it was Auburn's new offensive line coach is Tyler Hrdanic, who played them in 2017 at UCF, who's relatively young and new to coaching. There are questions about, all right, A, is he going to be the guy to help fix Auburn's offensive line? And B, how's he going to hang on the recruiting trail? He hadn't really done this before. Well, right now so far he's been able to land one of the biggest offensive line commitments Auburn's had in a very long time, and that's a good sign moving forward. Because again, landing an offensive lineman over Notre Dame is huge. Landing an offensive lineman over Penn State is a big deal as well. You got to get him in the boat. You got to keep him and see what you do with him. But
especially from their part of the country.
I mean, too, right? From Delaware, like from that area, like right?
Suburban Philly, or thereabouts.
Yeah, it's a really good sign for Auburn moving forward, and so a lot to get excited about. I think if you're an Auburn fan wanting to see, kind of been in wait and see mode about this coaching staff, and look, you got to prove it on the field, right? Recruiting, we saw the last couple of years, recruiting rankings don't equal wins on Saturdays in the fall, but you need them. So if you compare those with some actual wins, you're in a good spot. So really good, good.
And I do think that in the aftermath of since recruiting was so much of it was so wrapped in the identity of the Hugh Freeze era of this program, how recruiting goes without him, how recruiting goes for Auburn.
Yeah, you don't want to drop off a cliff.
Right. And
I think Indiana just showed us, like, you don't have to necessarily recruit at an elite level to win big. I think to a degree, they've obviously done really well in the portal. I think to a degree, Ole Miss has shown that you don't necessarily have to sign the very best high school classes in order to be really good in this conference either. But you'd love to be in that spot. You would love to have that luxury.
And I think folks would even say, like, there's more in the, Alex Golesh points out that 200-mile radius, right? Alex Golesh likes to think about, like, how much in every direction, there is just a bounty of high school talent.
And yet they go they go to the Northeast and the Midwest to get their two biggest commitments right now, which is significant.
Although they're probably not done recruiting regionally as well.
Oh no. I'm just saying, like, yes, you can build a championship caliber roster with dudes from within 200 miles from here. We've known that over the years. That was what I mean. The best years under Gus Malzahn, they really hammered that hard.
I think there's also maybe a little bit of, and I know the Big Ten has won the last couple of national championships. I'm not slighting any of the excellent programs in the Big Ten, especially at the top of that league. I would also say there's maybe a sign of, like, yeah, guys are willing to come to the SEC from other parts and I know that's not novel, right? But, like, guys are willing to make that jump.
And I'll say, like, if you're a dude like the Baron here from the Northeast, like, yes, you could go to Penn State, which they're, in a weird kind of like reset after all for being preseason number 2 and being in the semifinal, right? There are only so many dudes who can go to Ohio State. There are only so many dudes who can go to Michigan. There are only so many dudes who can go to Notre Dame and Penn State. The SEC, yes, even if it hasn't been.
I guess we start putting Indiana.
Well, yeah, Indiana now too. Yeah, for sure.
And those, Big Ten powerhouses, Oregon and.
But again,
UCLA,
those Northeastern guys aren't playing out there. They're, it's the other, they're recruiting their own area. Whereas in the SEC, like, that's the thing. The top of the Big Ten has been excellent, beyond excellent. It's been better than the SEC, especially these last couple seasons. the top to bottom depth of the SEC in terms of these schools care about football and they're willing to invest a lot. And this is where high level football is played. There's just more in the SEC.
How many schools, and this is not an SEC versus Big Ten, like, oh, see, we're like, because again, I'm not trying to take anything away from those.
Auburn would have the Auburn team of the last 5 years would have had a hard time stacking wins in the Big Ten.
Yes, absolutely.
Period. They would probably have loved to have played Purdue a lot more often, but yeah.
I think it's and again, it doesn't take anything away from the teams that have accomplished things to say, like, it's fair to wonder how many teams in the Big Ten are recruiting and prioritizing football like a team that can win playoff games. Like, how many of them are...
Ohio State, USC, Oregon, definitely.
Michigan, Penn State, Indiana.
And I think Indiana now. And then
Indiana
was doing it their own way.
And then after that, it gets into like Iowa.
It's like
Nebraska.
Like, yes, they do invest a lot, but it's like, to me,
Maryland.
It was like, to me, like an Iowa and Maryland, like at the fundamental nature of what they are as programs, right? In terms of their investment, in terms of their money, their recruiting, their talent level, and all that. What's the big difference between an Iowa or a Nebraska compared to a Arkansas or Kentucky, right? Or Missouri, I mean, I'm not even going to pick on the teams at Mississippi State, right? Like, that's my thing. Top to bottom, you're like, especially with the way Vandy jumped up the way they have, like, there are some absolute grenades at the bottom of the Big Ten.
Oh, yeah.
In football. Where it's just like...
I went to one of them.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Although I think Chesney could end up being really good for them.
Sure.
Yeah, but you like Purdue. Like, Purdue, man. Like, yeah. What Michigan State has been the last few years. Rutgers. Maryland.
Yeah.
Like, it's just is rough, right? That middle tier of the Big Ten, you start getting to like, okay... Whereas I think the Big Ten may have more championship contenders and playoff contenders at the very, very tippy top right now, or have had them the last couple of years. That middle tier, I'm like, I mean, am I really supposed to think Illinois and Nebraska are that much better off than, the bottom half of the SEC? I don't think so. So again, to your point, where it's like, you can play high level football knowing that, not everybody can play in your own backyard. Like, and again, we've talked about this before with kids that are at, that have been from Auburn High or Opelika or Central Phoenix City and have gone on to play anywhere else. So there's also some like, I want to go do something different. I want to go blaze my own trail. Sometimes you got to find those guys, and it looks like Auburn's, struck on a couple of them early on here in this recruiting cycle. All right. That'll do it. We will be back later this week. For our podcast, we'll have a mailbag. You can send in mailbag questions to me whenever inspiration strikes. We'll have some basketball later this week. We'll probably have some baseball as well. And like I said, another podcast. If you want all of it, auburnobserver.com. $6 a month or $60 a year to get you a subscription. Sorry about that. And let's see. Monday I wrote a short story on Deshaun Spencer that you can check out. I went into this story just kind of like, I wanted to write, hey, how Deshaun Spencer did in the spring. And then I started looking like, okay, what's kind of the history of like freshman wide receivers under Alex Golesh? Is there room for a guy like Deshaun Spencer to be a breakout player? What does that look like for Auburn? And by the end of the time I was doing my research and writing the story, by the end of it, I had convinced myself, like, I think this dude's going to be one of Auburn's, top 6 or so receivers. He's got a really good chance.
We talked about it a little bit on a recent episode where, and maybe this is an oversimplification of the receivers room, but it feels like you've got 4 guys from South Florida who are going to play. And then if you're trying to figure out like the 5th and 6th guys to be part of a 6-man rotation,
could be freshmen.
It could be Deshaun Spencer versus Bryce Kane for inside reps, and it could be Duke Smith versus Brian Williams Jr. for outside reps. And it's like those could be could be your 6, and the other 2 guys may still play in the picture, but it's like being a 7th and 8th guy in the room and maybe needing someone to get hurt or play their way out of opportunities before you get your shot.
I believe the stat I had was in 3 years at USF, Alex Golesh's offenses had every year had 6 receivers who had 20-plus catches and 200-plus yards. And it's like, I could see Deshaun Spencer being one of those guys. Here's the funny thing. if he had 20-plus catches and 200-plus yards, he's automatically one of the 12 best freshman receivers in Auburn football history.
And it just seems like, and again, maybe it's hype and recency, but he seems like he gets open, right? It seemed like they were
slippery.
They were trying different things to keep him, and over again the ball was finding him on A-Day and throughout the spring.
All right, we got it. We're done. Dan, you said before we started this podcast you wanted to relitigate stuff you had talked about in the past.
So you catch me off guard sometimes with nonsense, and I have nothing prepared.
Yeah.
And so I actually thought about what would I say in the I didn't give any of the rest of the podcast any thought, but of course, what would I say in a nonsense segment? I recommended in the recent in the mailbag episode. You asked me about what's on Tubi, and I shouted out Thief, the Michael Mann film from the early '80s, James Caan, and it had been a long time. I think I watched it the first month of the pandemic back in 2020 when I was just devouring movies nonstop to feel something after in light of everything that was going on. But I hadn't watched it since, and it's fantastic. It really works as a prequel to Heat in a lot of ways. He explores a lot of the same themes. The criminal who feels like it's all he can do, but is frustrated and thinking about a different kind of life, and just the intensity and the look of this. I cannot recommend it enough as a thriller from the 80s with just that hits all the right notes. Tangerine Dream did the music. If you've never seen Thief, it's outstanding. Check it out. And you asked me on this is a while ago when we were talking about, because I was thinking about this when we had the email about the Kings of Leon. And sort of
that was last week.
Yeah, and again, I have no real analysis beyond somebody was gigantic. I had a couple of
people appreciate my Need to Breathe reference. So
good.
I'm glad some of you are listening.
I will say I've revisited the early work of the Foo Fighters, who I find to be again. I think a lot of the more recent stuff hasn't been for me, but there's not there's it's almost got a Nirvana twinge to it, but the first Foo Fighters, I'll stick around, and this is a call. Some great stuff.
I like the Foo Fighters stuff that does sound like Nirvana. It's like Everlong.
Yes,
Everlong again.
It's first couple albums.
It's a very famous song, but I think if you're going the most famous, if I pulled up right now top Foo Fighters songs on Spotify,
I would guess Everlong is your most streamed song of theirs.
Yes, and then number 2 is The Pretender.
Okay, a lot of it's probably going to venture
Best of You,
Learn to Fly,
My Hero, All My Life.
Yeah,
and Monkey Wrench.
The first 3 albums. Monkey Wrench is on the album with that's Color in the Shape. I think that's the one with Everlong on it. And then there's nothing. It's there's the self-titled album, there's the Color in the Shape, and there's Nothing Left to Lose, which are the first 3.
My Hero's on Color in the Shape too.
They're all. I mean, so I would say I'm a pretty big fan of. It's weird because that's another band where it's they have an era that I really like, and I could give or take a lot of the other stuff. I kind of feel that way about the Chili Peppers. There's a couple of Chili Peppers.
I think I've been on the record as saying I don't like the Chili Peppers.
And I think I would say there's
Danny California's fine.
There's a period with.
There's another Chili Pepper song I tolerate.
Have you seen Glass Onion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Edward Norton's character in that movie talks about he really likes when it's the John Frusciante forward periods of the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
I think I'm like that, where it's when they pushed.
So you're Elon Musk.
Well, in this specific instance, I think I do prefer the Chili Peppers albums when Frusciante was front and center in the band, which is to an extent Blood Sugar Sex Magic, but then Californication and By the Way.
While we're in Music Corner,
last
week the Biscuits had Emo Night, and I tried to get a shirt, and I hope I can still land one. I'm in the works trying to get one, and I was wondering what the music was going to be like, what you would consider
emo.
You
were offended that you were not brought in to be the DJ for Emo Night,
but that's neither here nor there.
Justin is available to DJ your Emo Night event.
And it got us into a conversation about emo nights at like bars and like different play or event or like sporting events like this.
I'm available to DJ your like late 90s alt rock.
Yeah.
Barbecue.
If you if you want to play a lot of like
Harvey Danger, you want to Flagpole Sitta? Marcy Playground.
I was saying that emo,
it's all one-hit wonders.
It's so funny to me because it's like emo I think can be it's one of the most, it's so broad, but like people who like it will tell you it's not broad at all. But also emo is one of those things where it's like there's so many different versions of it. Like even like define, like I think right now we're in fifth wave emo right now. Like, you know, bands like Origami Angel and like that.
I immediately go to like, I think of Dashboard Confessional's voice, right? Like that's immediately where I go
Chris
to
Carrabba.
for, I immediately go to like Hands Down
which is the best emo song of all time.
Or even the one isn't there one from Spider-Man? Spider-Man centric? Yeah.
And so I was wondering, it was kind of funny, like an emo night at a bar. We were talking about this as it being like what are they playing? And we determined that a lot of times when you hear an emo night thing, it's like you're end up going to be playing a lot of pop punk, even if it's not
it's pop
emo,
punk night,
right? Like it's not like you're going to play
like the sadder Blink-182 songs might make an appearance, right? Like
sure,
Adam's song or I Miss You.
But then it'll be like, well, we're gonna play the All American Rejects, and it's like that's not emo at all.
Fall
but
Out Boy.
like
which is
borderline.
Some 41.
Yeah. It's like you're gonna start playing. You know, and it's a pretty broad definition. But I haven't gotten it out of my head at how funny it would have been, whether if it was the Biscuits doing emo night or at a bar. And it's like you've got a DJ who's like, you know, we're going with the strictest definition of emo, and we're playing American football. We're playing like Jawbreaker. We're playing like
it's an SNL sketch. This is a Saturday Night Live sketch. They hired a DJ. They hired a DJ for their theme.
It's like a bunch of college kids. It's like a bunch of college kids thinking they're gonna hear like the bands we were talking about, like you know, the most like maybe emo like. Definitional emo you could go with is like they're gonna probably think that okay, well, you'll play a My Chemical Romance song, like you'll play something off of 3 Cheers, and you'll be like, all right, well that's emo. But instead, it's just the beginning of Nevermint, where it's just a guy tuning his guitar.
I just love this. Yeah, like I mean, you hire the purist to be the DJ for your theme thing, and he's not playing anything the fans are expecting to hear, and he's.
That's I want to do that. I want hire me for your emo night, and you know I'll drop some like I'm trying to think.
Are we doing a Justin Ferguson DJ'd emo dance party after the live episode? Is that now the?
Still got to book that.
Is that now? Is that the 1-2 punch that we're?
That might be the 1-2. I guess it's kind of emo adjacent here, but like it would be funny like playing a bunch of 20-year-olds like at the drive-in, like having that guy yell at you the whole time.